Actually, our speaker today really needs very little introduction. For anybody who isn't familiar with Congressman Petri, you're probably new to the area, or just not a political nut like I am. But I'm proud to say that Congressman Petri is serving his 17th term in the U.S. House and has agreed to come here to speak with us today while Congress is on break. To talk to us specifically about, we had asked for an update, of course, on the badger, as well as other topics of interest, one being the possible invasion of Asian carp, and also any potential federal tax credits. So hopefully the Congressman will be prepared to talk about a couple of those items, as well as hopefully some great questions from the audience. I know I have a couple. So I'd like to please join me in welcoming Congressman Petri. Yep, we'll go ahead.
All right, good. I was afraid they were going to hold the food till after I finished, and that's not the case, so I'll just go right ahead and you have to worry about the thing. It's appropriate to be talking about the badger since it's almost a advertisement with a beautiful day and the lake and the green and the blue sky and the badger going on. And it's a unique ship on the Great Lakes. It's the last coal-fired ship of its kind, and of course it's been under the gun because of a court ruling a few years ago which extended the emissions, clean air emissions laws to water as well as air. And since that time, the badger's been operating under various types of temporary arrangements for a while. As you know, they thought they could put in some kind of a ash holding thing and then dispose of it over in Michigan, and that ended up not being, I guess, feasible. And so they are now pursuing a switching over to natural gas, which is something that a lot of people are looking at because the price of natural gas has been dropping tremendously as they found new techniques for unlocking vast amounts of natural gas. And Chrysler is coming out with a natural gas truck this fall. Quick Trip is planning on putting in natural gas pumps. And in other countries, they do have vehicles that are powered by both gas and natural gas. And so this is something that we're going to be learning a lot more about. The energy of the cost of natural gas on an energy equivalent with gasoline works out currently to somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 cents a gallon. And that's a pretty big incentive to start investing in infrastructure and making the changes that are needed. And of course, it's already used by a number of bus and delivery truck fleets as well. But I collected some statistics on the badger because Senator Durbin down in Illinois, I think it responding to some article that appeared in Chicago Tribune, and I was actually called, and that appeared by a colleague of mine, Dan Lipinski, who represents Chicago, saying he had a young aide who reads the Tribune and he was going to introduce some sort of legislation or something to terminate the badger, but since he discovered I had represented an area that I was served by, I thought I'd give you a call first, and I persuaded him not to do it, and he's sort of off that case, but for some reason Senator Durbin did bite and is powerful in the Senate, and of course we need to get I've got an application pending for a waiver currently administratively for a year or so or more, and we have passed a provision in the House, but it's in the Coast Guard bill that is pending in the Senate to keep the badger going until they can come up with a more permanent solution. But what is the problem? Let me just give you some facts. First of all, an independent lab tested the emissions and found that they don't violate water standards. Now, period. Second, the discharge is cleaner than discharges that are allowed in more than 140 other individual permits approved by the Environmental Protection Agency for discharges into the Great Lakes. So it's not as though we're asking for something that 140 other users haven't already received. In many cases, the Badger discharges is hundreds of times less than what others are permitted to discharge into Lake Michigan according to the Argonne Laboratory test. For example, it would have to operate for another 50 years for the mercury discharges to total 1 ounce. Less than 2/100ths of an ounce of mercury is discharged in coal ash each year. Trace amounts of arsenic present in some of the coal is 52,000 times below the Wisconsin water quality standard in the water that we drink. So it's much safer to eat the ash than to drink water. If it makes any difference. Of course, we know, and I'm not telling people here anything that employs several hundred people, and of course there's the multiplier effect. Hundreds of jobs are, it's not the whole job, but all the restaurant people and other tourist-related facilities in our area. It brings millions and millions of dollars into our community, and it is a great talking point and a focal point for publicizing this area that sticks in people's minds. When I've taken the Badger with my family, it's really quite fun because you stand there for an hour or so waiting while the people are coming over from Michigan on load, and if you stand and look at all the license plates, Maine, New Hampshire, Canadian provinces, Oregon, the whole country is filled with, in North America, with people who are planning their summer vacation and working it up, and maybe spending a lot of winter looking at different things and trying to have a unique and interesting experience for their kids. And the Badger is part of a lot of those plans after they've learned about it. So we're going to work it as hard as we can to make sure it continues, and one way or another, you never know, but I'm fairly confident if it's done at all on the merits that it will, because it's not. It's a minuscule pollution, if any at all. Now, in truth, I suspect when they burn the coal, there may be some going out into the air, but that's another whole issue. What they're arguing about is the ash, and the ash has been baked and is really cleaner than almost anything else, because any impurities in the coal have probably gone off with the smoke. And that's just the fact. We had the similar problem years ago in this country with the foundry industry. People are familiar with the history of a lot of areas in Milwaukee and other parts. The foundry sand was used as fill, and for a lot of things were built on it. Foundry sand was declared a hazardous material at one point, and it was driving the foundries crazy. What were they going to do with it? They finally convinced the EPA to test the foundry sand in relation to the ground on which we walk. And the foundry sand was more pure than the ground on which we walk. So they now allow it to be added to for road fill and for surfacing and that kind of thing. So I think this is a similar type of a situation.